All right, joining me now is Nick Hulscher. Nick, welcome back to the broadcast. Am I the only broadcaster that has to do that, stop our stream on YouTube when we bring you on?
No, the other people have had to do that. That is for sure. Many people have been restricted or banned by YouTube for me saying the truth, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and isn't this, may I just do a shameless plug for ourselves? Isn't this why we need World YouTube? Because we're one of the platforms where we do speak the truth. We bring people on, whether it's Itamar or Annie or you. I mean, we cover so many controversial things that other networks won't touch, or platforms will actually possibly deplatform you and remove your channel. And we've worked really hard to build up a pretty big, what are we, over 50,000 following us now on World YouTube or on YouTube, Logan? We're over 50,000. That takes a long time to build that up. We're trying to get it to 100,000, but it's a very important platform for us. We don't want to lose it because we've worked very hard to get those 50,000 people, and we have a lot of our viewers that love it and use it. So we want to keep it, but it shows why we have to have World YouTube, because if we were to lose any of these streaming platforms, we always have a home at World YouTube. And I remind our audience of that. If you see us gone from somewhere, you always know we have, is Dolly trying to eat your muffin, Logan? Yeah, Melissa just brought me a gluten-free blueberry muffin, and she's brought them to the boys in the control room. And now you're trying to eat everybody's muffins this morning, aren't you? Mm-hmm.
She's hungry.
She is hungry. She's always hungry. She's a lab. But if we ever lose our platform anywhere, folks, we're always at worldviewtube.com. All right? All right. All right, Nick, let's talk about several things with you today. Over on your X account, looky here, glyphosate safety study, ghost written by Monsanto, retracted after 25 years of deception. Tell me about this. I guess we all know this is Roundup, right? Glyphosate, that's Roundup, right?
Yeah, this is Roundup made by Monsanto. And, you know, what this is this study was published in the year 2000. And now it was revealed that actually Monsanto staff helped write this article. The authors were likely receiving large sums of money from Monsanto, and many of the data in this study was unpublished, the secret data from Monsanto. So it was basically a complete fraud, and it claimed that glyphosate was safe and not linked to cancer. And now we have all these studies that came out recently finding that glyphosate increased or caused 10 distinct types of cancer in rats when they were exposed at so-called safe levels. And so this paper, though, was used by our agencies across the world to claim glyphosate was safe and in the approval processes. And so now all of that was built on a complete fraud and lie. And so this retraction is probably the only time I will be happy about a retraction.
Wow. All right. Now you come on here a lot of times with breaking news. You have any breaking news for us today?
Oh, yes, we have. But this news is very, very, very disturbing. So this is basically the first human biodistribution study of the mRNA injections. They had over 30 people. They had mostly pregnant women, some sperm donors, so men, and also unvaccinated people. And they found an 88% of the pregnant women that got vaccinated, 88% had the Pfizer mRNA in their placentas. So it was reaching the fetal tissue of these pregnant women, and basically all of them. It was circulating in their blood. Half of them still had circulating Pfizer mRNA 200 days after their last injection. And what's even more concerning is that all 3 of the sperm donors that produced viable sperm all had Pfizer mRNA in their sperm cells and seminal fluid. So we know it goes to the testicles, unfortunately, in men. But then the last thing this study found was that half of the unvaccinated pregnant women had Pfizer mRNA in their placenta and or blood. Half of the unvaccinated. This is the first direct molecular evidence of vaccine or mRNA vaccine transmission, or what's called shedding.
And of course, We were mocked. Remember that? How early on we were mocked for talking about shedding, like that was some kind of conspiracy theory, right?
Yeah, we were mocked. Pfizer and regulatory agencies and governments and media, they all lied and said it would just stay in the arm, it would rapidly degrade. And this study completely ends that argument. It does not rapidly degrade. It goes to your reproductive system. It goes to the baby in pregnant women, and it stays there for a very, very long time. And it sheds. And so they claimed all of this wasn't possible. So this is an absolutely groundbreaking study. It should warrant the immediate market withdrawal of the mRNA products, and they should be issuing apologies to the population they coerced to take these dangerous products.
What is this about? CBS, Kaiser Family Foundation, Health News sends top medical reporter to McCullough Foundation about report on autism. What's that about?
Yeah, so we have now all these mainstream outlets reaching out to us in an attempt to debunk our major autism paper that we believe played a key role in changing the CDC's website, where they now claim vaccines may actually cause autism. And so now we have CBS. I've actually recently been contacted by Gates-funded sciencefeedback.org. I've been contacted by Reuters recently. So they're preparing all of these hit pieces on us to so-called debunk us. But we have to remember, we're backed by the science. They are not. They're backed by big pharma and captured interests. And their efforts will fail miserably.
In fact, did we not just have, I'm trying to find it in my notes of stuff today, but did we not just have a comment come out by RFK Jr.? In fact, I think I just found it, Dolly. I just found it here. Hold on, Dolly. I just found it, a statement by RFK Jr. Where is it? I did just have it. You bumped my arm, Dolly. Here it is. Let's listen to what RFK Jr. has come out and said. Here we go.
I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary. Today, I'm announcing decisive steps that HHS is taking to defend something that is absolutely fundamental in this country: a parent's right to guide their child's health decisions. That right is not optional, it's not negotiable, and under the Trump administration, it will not be ignored. HHS has launched an investigation into a troubling incident in the Midwest. A school administered a federally funded vaccine to a child without the parent's consent and despite a legally recognized state exemption. When any institution, a school, a doctor's office, a clinic, disregards a religious exemption, it doesn't just break trust, it also breaks the law. It fractures the sacred bond between families and the people entrusted with their child's care. And we're not going to tolerate it. The Health Resources and Services Administration is sending a letter to HRSA-supported health center grant recipients, underscoring a simple fact. Federal funding requires compliance with federal and state laws that protect parental rights. Parents have another right that every American should know about, and that's the right of access to their children's health records. HIPAA establishes that right of access. If you have the legal authority to make decisions for your child, then you should have the right to see their records. No delays, no secrets, no excuses. So today we are launching compliance reviews of providers and major healthcare systems to ensure that they give parents timely access to their children's information. In addition, our Office for Civil Rights has issued a letter reminding healthcare providers of their clear legal duty to give parents access to their children's medical records. If a provider stands between you and your child, HHS is going to step in. Let me be clear, schools and healthcare systems cannot sideline parents. If a provider ignores consent, violates an exemption, or keeps parents in the dark, HHS will act quickly and decisively. We will use every tool we have to protect families and restore accountability. The Vaccines for Children program must never become a workaround to bypass parents. We are reviewing how states and districts process exemptions to ensure the program follows the law, not the other way around. If you believe that your rights or your child's rights have been violated, then you can file a complaint with our Office for Civil Rights at hhs.gov/OCR/complaints. That's hhs.gov/OCR/complaints. Parents know their children best. Parents love their children the most, and HHS will always defend their voice, their authority, and their rightful place at the center of their children's healthcare decisions. Thank you very much.
Well, good for him. I like that PSA he did for several reasons. I agree with it. I mean, the parents should be the ones choosing. So he's not only standing up for common sense healthcare, but most importantly, or equally, is he's standing up for parental rights. This is one of the fundamental constitutional and even more premier than that, biblical realities on the planet. God-given parental rights. And I appreciate his standing up for that. Will you comment on this?
Yeah. This is a great thing. This is a great thing. There's nothing bad to say about this action. It is so terrible that a state or these people at school or whoever are committing assault and battery on children by violating their exemptions and bypassing the parents to just directly inject them with medical products. It's an absolute travesty. And I think the penalties for those who do that should be very, very severe. So it is nice and a great thing to see HHS stepping in this aspect. We can't have children being coerced by these people that are basically drug dealers injecting them with toxins.
100%. You brought up a good point, and that is punishment. Now, this was a school. Was this a school that gave the child the shot? Is that what he said at the beginning?
Yeah, I believe that is what he said. It's a school. I mean, so schools should not, these are not medical centers. This is not the doctor's office. This is a school. It should be a safe place to send your child, not a place you have to send your child and worry about that they will be given unauthorized vaccines.
Well, why is a school giving vaccines anyway?
Perhaps they had some sort of vaccination drive or some agreement with
a school-based clinic, which we were warning about and doing a documentary on in the early 90s, warning about the dangers of school-based clinics. We do not need school-based clinics, okay? The only reason you have a school-based clinic, in my opinion, is to push contraceptives on them, abortion counseling, and this kind of garbage around the back of the parents. Treatment for STDs, whatever it might be. And I was one of the producers of a documentary, and we should actually play that, Logan. Our documentary from the early 90s called Striking Below the Belt. This is where a doctor went into a school in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and did forced pelvic exams to 11-year-old girls, 57, I think it was, 11-year-old girls without their parents' permission or knowledge. And they claim, they were looking for abuse. So in the process of looking for abuse, I think they were actually involved in sexual abuse. And when this was brought to me in the early 90s, I verified the story out of East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and then I took it to the Michael Reagan show, Ronald Reagan's oldest son, and I served as his education reporter and frequent guest host. And we turned it into a national story. And then we put the parents with the Rutherford Institute and our friend John Rutherford, and they sued in federal court, and they did win. Wasn't a very big settlement for each family, but it was something. But that was, again, doing this in the schools in the early 90s. We did a whole documentary on it, and it's called Striking Below the Belt. And if you want to watch it, if you're a member of our vault, that documentary is in there. So, folks, we've been doing this kind of thing since 1990, 36 years in just a few weeks. We're in our 35th, finishing our 35th year. Isn't it interesting, the stuff that we're covering and doing, folks? It's not new. It's just gotten worse. Comments on that, Nick?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what you've been doing for the past 30 years has been essential, absolutely essential in exposing what's going on. And I will be watching that documentary.
Well, let's see that, Logan, let's see that we send a, yeah. Let's just play a little bit of it. Okay, he's going to get it over and we'll play just a minute of it. But yes, this is the danger of school-based clinics. And so here's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying a school gave one of these kids a vaccine, even though the parents had an exemption in there, right? When I was a kid, you couldn't even get an aspirin unless you had a note on file from your parents. But now they have an exemption on file, but they give the child the vaccine anyway. I don't know what vaccine it was. I don't know if you do or not. But if it was the COVID shot, I think whoever did that should be charged with attempted murder.
Oh, yeah. If this was the COVID shot, they should be swiftly put behind bars for injecting a gene transfer product in a child. But again, we don't know exactly what vaccine it was. Maybe it was, flu shot for all we know, because we know they try to peddle those on children every year. But regardless, even the flu shot's extremely dangerous and doesn't work. So regardless, it was a very bad thing and appears to be a form of assault.
Well, I was going to use that word. I'm glad you did. I was going to say, well, at the very least, they should be charged with assault, I think.
Yeah. Because, again, it's directly being injected into their arm. It goes into their bloodstream. It goes into their central nervous system. This isn't just some pill they're taking that's benign and clears out in 12 hours. No. This is an injectable product that can cause all sorts of issues.
Here's another headline: breaking publication: mRNA vaccines may prime the body for years of amplified harm from subsequent SARS-CoV-2 injections. So now, again, I don't know what this child got. But any hospital or any group giving a shot to either a child or an adult without their confirmed consent should be highly and aggressively prosecuted. And there should be massive punitive damages for any institution that does that. I want you to speak to this because I hear that you better be very careful if you go into a hospital, because some of these folks are getting the COVID shot without their knowledge. Right? I mean, I've not been in a hospital. I broke my back in 1999 and I wouldn't even stay overnight. Okay. I mean, they were trying to get me to stay overnight. I'm like, no, thank you. Just give me whatever you got in that IV in a tablet form. And they called it a prescription and I got out of there. And it's worse than it was in 1999. But I'll have to be in big trouble to stay overnight. If you guys ever hear I'm staying in a hospital, I'm clearly in big trouble because I didn't stay overnight with a broken back. Which the next morning, the ER doc called and was begging me to come back in. I'm like, not happening, bud. Now, if you go into a doctor's or a hospital today, I hear you better be looking at everything they're giving you, and then you better have an advocate there if you're not have the wherewithal to be asking. But you better be double checking every pill, every shot, anything being put into your IV. You should be double checking. First of all, because too many people die from wrong medications. But I hear they're giving people the COVID shot while they're in the hospital, unbeknownst to them.
It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible that some hospitals will be giving these, again, unauthorized without consent. I don't know specifics about this, but again, knowing what hospitals have done in the past. In fact, I witnessed the vaccination center at a hospital in 2021, and I saw there was no informed consent given even at the vaccine drive. There was nothing to sign. You just walked in and get shot up with this mysterious potion. So, yeah, it would not surprise me one bit. But you brought up that other study, this study, and this was just accepted after peer review in the European Society of Medicine's Medical Research Archives. This was the McCullough Foundation paper headed by Nathaniel Mead. He's the first author. He really did a boatload of work on this. This is absolutely shocking, really, though. What we found was that a lot of this excess mortality we're still seeing that kind of coincided with the mild COVID waves, Omicron. We know that was very mild in most people. But what we found was in highly vaccinated populations, when they faced an Omicron wave, they died at very high rates. So it appears, based on all this evidence, that of what's called compound harms, we were hit with dual biowarfare agent SARS-CoV-2 manufactured, as well as the mRNA gene therapy countermeasures. But the mRNA appears to prime the body for years of amplified harm from otherwise mild SARS-CoV-2 infections. And there's many mechanisms behind that, but one that is central is that both of these, the mRNA and the SARS-CoV-2 infection, superload the body with highly pathogenic spike proteins, and they don't clear out very easily. They stay in there, they stay in the brain, they get in the heart. And unfortunately, the mRNA shots appear to produce about 7 times more spike than if you were to just become infected.
Anything else going on that you need to tell us about over at, I'm looking at a lot of your articles at thefocalpoints.com, thefocalpoints.com. Anything else before we let you go?
Yeah, we also did publish another paper recently as well, also in the European Society of Medicine's journal, where we actually outlined this is actually the first peer-reviewed paper now to outline silent heart damage from the COVID shots, or what's called COVID-19 vaccine-induced subclinical myopericarditis. And what this is sometimes, the symptoms aren't very obvious. You might have some exercise exertion, you might have some fluttering in the heart. You might, be very sleepy all the time, but no obvious symptoms of heart damage. And we found that it's possible about 1% to 3% of those who received a dose do have this silent subclinical heart damage. And this can lead to sudden cardiac arrest and sudden deaths as the first clinical manifestation. So this is very serious. We outline a whole diagnostic approach and a clinical approach to treatment of this syndrome, because it's a very prevalent syndrome, and we have finally addressed it and provided some solutions.
And that was me grabbing what I thought was going to be an article, but it turned out to be audio, so apologize. But I'll cover this one real quick on your website, and then we'll let you go. FDA cover-up of 10 pediatric mRNA deaths is the tip of the iceberg. Okay, yes. Again, where are the prosecutions of these people covering up the deaths of children who were given this COVID shot? Where is the prosecution for the people who are recommending these shots to children? I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, I do understand. We have a 2-tier legal system. One for the elite, they can commit murder apparently without any repercussions. But the average person, if they commit murder, rightfully so, are held accountable. But the elite, they can commit murder all day long, and they do. And yet there are no repercussions. We see this over and over, the massive amounts of murder just from this, just from the COVID shot, the vaccine so-called, not to mention all the other things we can talk about. Yeah,
this is murder, or you could even call it mass murder. When we have a mass casualty event, we're now approximately 500 to 600,000 Americans conservatively have died as a result of these mRNA shots. Yeah, there's been serious crimes committed. And, 10 deaths that the FDA revealed is simply just a very small tip of the iceberg. They were burying this. They were already investigating those deaths years ago, and they finally brought it up to surface in a leaked memo. But this appears, unfortunately, to be a limited disclosure attempt. And what that means is they're going to disclose a very small number of deaths in an attempt to brush the mass casualties under the rug.
Yeah, ridiculous. Nick Hulscher, thefocalpoints.com, thefocalpoints.com. And you can also find him right here on his X account at Nick Hulscher, and also at The Focal Points. He's the administrator and epidemiologist at the McCullough Foundation.